Hi, and welcome back to The Growth Show. I am super excited today to welcome Holly Larson to the podcast. And in this episode, we're going to diverge a little bit from the marketing topics and business topics, and we are going to talk about money. But money in the way of how people in the nutrition field, dietitians, can improve their salaries and really command their worth and do it in a really authentic and empowered way. Because I know for many of us, it can be really tough to talk about money, and we may not be happy with the prices that people want to pay us or the salaries that employers want to give us, but it can be really tough to navigate. How can we really advocate for ourselves in a way that also still feels authentic to us? So that's what we're getting into today. And a little background about Holly. So Holly Larson is a registered dietitian and nutrition copywriter. So she founded her own business, Holly Larson Writes, where she crafts effective and engaging copy to amplify the voices of fellow registered dietitian entrepreneurs and wellness companies. In addition to her work as a copywriter, Holly is a mentor, teaching nutrition professionals how to write their own content to further their practice or company. And she does such a phenomenal job with this. Holly is also the founder of the Dietitian Money Conference, and that's what we'll be talking about today. That is a solution-oriented symposium dedicated to educating and empowering dietitians and nutrition students to advocate for compensation that reflects the immense value they provide. So I am just so excited to really dive into this topic with Holly today. And outside of her professional life, Holly is a mom to a toddler, and she enjoys spending her limited free time because, yeah, she does a lot. She loves reading, baking, and hiking with her family and Bernedoodle. So I'm sure that's a really cute dog. All right, let's get into the episode. Welcome, Holly. Thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited. We have known each other for a few years. We've worked together in a few different capacities, but today we're specifically talking about money.
Money.
Mhm. Oh, I love it. You got a good singing voice. So you are a dietitian, but you are a dietitian of many talents. You are a writer. You are a mentor to other dietitians with their writing and all of that and their blogging. And you are the founder of what I would say is a first of its kind of conference, the Dietitian Money Conference. So what is the Dietitian Money Conference?
Gosh, I think it's funny that as dietitians, we are very comfortable talking about all kinds of things, even things like people's poop. We can talk about that. No problem. But we tend to get really uncomfortable talking about money. And dietitians tend to have a lot of imposter syndrome, even though we're awesome. We have so much value and the ability to make a really positive impact on people's lives. We still struggle with imposter syndrome. And for many reasons, we're underpaid. We tend to make less than other healthcare professionals with similar minimum training requirements. There's a lot of reasons for that, which we'll dive into a little bit in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to help make a difference, which is why I founded the Dietitian Money Conference, because we need more practice talking about money. Now, I'll say, Whitney, I'm not hosting the Money Conference because I have everything figured out and I've never made a mistake and I'm never going to make a mistake again. I just decided to take imperfect action with the hope of empowering our field and making a difference in my own way.
I mean, I just want to stop for a second and say how inspiring it is that you saw this need, because I think also for many of us, we think we need to have all the answers. And that if we're going to go and come out and start talking about a topic, that we need to be the expert and that we need to know how to tell people about it. And what you've done instead is you've spent your time and energy putting together this conference and this platform, but then finding all sorts of different people to come and speak on a variety of different topics where they are the experts in, and just really empower them to help people. And then that way there are so many people. And I would say, this is called the Dietitian Money Conference. A lot of our listeners are dietitians, but I would say many health professionals and coaches out there, and anyone who feels like, yeah, you know what, I wish I could feel more confident talking about money. I think this could work for so many people, and you've just created this platform. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you. And I can say that, you know, I've made plenty of mistakes about things, and not because I didn't want to do better, just because we're not informed. I've been researching and then just casually chatting with other dietitians, and most of us don't have much in the way of how to put together a really solid resume or how to evaluate an offer. Is it a good offer? And how to negotiate. Like, these are all skills. Most of us are not born with these things. We need exposure to and practice, but we need those to be able to quantify our impact and to be able to advocate for fair compensation, and it matters. So my first job offer, Whitney, was in a WIC clinic. And I knew, so this is 20 years ago, a brand new dietitian trying to get my first job. And I think I probably blocked out just how low the initial salary was, especially living in Washington, D.C., where things are enormously expensive. And I went in, I was like, I know that I need to negotiate. I know that women are underpaid. And so just because I wanted to negotiate doesn't mean I knew how to negotiate. And so I had this conversation with who became my manager. She presented this salary. I said, is that negotiable? She said no. And that was the whole conversation. And I was humiliated. I was really embarrassed because I knew that I needed to be able to negotiate, but I didn't know how.
You should be proud that you even asked that question, because I think there's a lot of people that would not even ask that question, myself included.
Well, the data supports that, Whitney. As I've been researching for the conference, the majority of people don't negotiate their first job offer, especially out of school. But that's why it's so important to talk about it. We have to talk about it so that we can empower our field as early as possible.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I think too, it can be intimidating. I remember the book from Chris Voss. He's like, some master negotiator. And sometimes it can feel like in order to learn negotiation skills, it can be very just combative or just not in the style, because especially for us as healthcare providers, we are caring about people. We don't want anyone to feel like we're trying to take advantage of them. We're just not coming from that place. And so it can be tough to find education and resources and support that is in the style of which we practice and our personalities and all of that. So I really love that. And yeah, I talk a lot about how we don't learn marketing and writing and design in school. We don't learn how to run a business. We learn how to take care of people and write soap notes and all those different things and keep people safe. But we don't learn those business aspects. And I think also learning that money literacy is so important. And this conference is both for people who are in traditional jobs or are, negotiating any kind of job as an employee, but then also for entrepreneurs as well, right?
Yeah. And you can have your feet in both realms. So if you want to have a traditional job and would like the benefits like health insurance and things that are really important, and you can have a side hustle to help reach your financial goals, or you could be thinking about these things as a student. So there really is something for everybody at the conference, because these are skills that we continue to learn. So just like we're staying on top of the literature in the niche that we're practicing in, and Whitney, you have your eye on the prize with all things marketing, and I'm continuing to learn more things, copywriting and SEO. We keep learning, we keep doing better, and we get to, I love the expression, a rising tide raises all ships. So the more that we talk about money and are transparent, it does benefit everybody. Secrecy only benefits people who are taking advantage of others. So transparency is really valuable.
Yeah, and that can be a hallmark of these money conversations, of not having that transparency. So love it. So let's dive in then. You mentioned that dietitians are underpaid according to or compared to other health professionals. So why is that? Why is the salary so low?
Well, I'm going to channel my inner golden girl and say, picture this. It's America in 1965 and Medicare is enacted. And that's the first time that with this national insurance plan, dietitian services were not covered. So
Okay.
nurses are covered, doctors are covered, other healthcare professionals are included, but dietitian services were not. And so that position, dietitian care, as an expense in the hospital setting where dietitians certainly traditionally and still often work. And so until much more recently, I don't have the date at the top of my head, but until the academy and other dietitians have been able to advocate that when dietitians work with people and their health improves, it saves the hospital money. So, of course, we're like, of course they're healthier, duh. But we can't just say that, we have to prove it. So, every piece of published literature that says when someone with high cholesterol works with a dietitian X number of times, their risk of heart disease is lowered, their need for medication is lowered. So we have to have had those published peer-reviewed journal articles that say the investment in a dietitian saves money long term. But then it's taken a lot of work and advocacy, especially when so often a dietitian comes into their room and they're like, oh, are you dietary? Did you cook our lunch? It tastes gross,
Yeah, I'll give you my dinner order.
We're a lot more than that. So that's why it's been a game of catch up ever since, because then other health insurance providers tend to follow the lead of Medicare. So it started with, okay, we will cover certain kinds of diabetes and kidney disease because there was the peer-reviewed literature to support the dietitian care makes a difference. So not only are they healthier, it also saves money. And then it's kind of built from that.
So that seed was kind of planted a long time ago that dietitians were not seen as the same as other healthcare providers. And we've basically been having to claw our way back in ever since peer-reviewed journal by peer-reviewed journal.
Yes.
To say, oh, this condition also, oh, yes, this condition, to basically assume that, yes, of course, a dietitian is going to help someone. It's instead being like, well, we're not going to assume that you can help unless you prove it. Okay. So how can we change things? It sounds like it was just a ripple effect that has impacted so much.
So part of it is just being in the know. So right now with the MNT Act, they're looking to expand coverage further. So this is a time to get in touch with our representative in local government to say this is important. So a lot of times I see kind of frustrated comments in Facebook groups like, what is the academy doing? Well, what have you done to educate yourself what the academy is doing? It's a lot. And what are you doing? Are you learning skills to advocate for yourself? I do think it's important for the academy to be doing things, and they are, but that's not in place of or more important than what you're doing to have conversations locally, to educate yourself about what are fair rates in your area. Because of course that someone in California has a higher cost of living than somewhere where I live in Ohio. And so salaries need to reflect all sorts of things. But on average, they do need to be higher. So it takes a village. We need to work together. But part of it is just being informed and using your voice and having these conversations as often as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it seems like it is this systemic issue that has impacted dietitians a lot. We were speaking about the insurance coverage and in the clinical setting and all of that, but this obviously does ripple out to anyone who is being hired because of their credential and how they're being valued. I worked at a food service management company as a dietitian. So I'm sure that this, what we're talking about now, still had an impact on how my salary was considered and how valuable or not valuable I was seen. So even if you're not working in a hospital or a clinical setting, this has impacted whether obviously or just subconsciously the value that is assigned to anyone working in this space with the dietitian credential.
Totally agree.
Okay. So yeah, whether you're working in a job or you are an entrepreneur and you are seeing private practice clients and all of that, people are expecting to pay a certain amount or thinking the value is a certain amount. And really, we need to be showing people that the value is there and we need to be paid fairly. And that really, like you were saying, yes, there's the advocacy efforts, but then we also need to be standing up and not assuming that the advocacy efforts are going to solve all the problems and all of that. Because even if it were to do those things, it takes years for those things to trickle down and for consumers to say, oh yeah, actually, okay, I do understand that paying, $100 an hour to see a dietitian or $50 an hour is maybe not really enough for what the quality I'm getting and the amount of schooling and expertise that is coming with that credential.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it's so many things when it comes to money too. It's like how to know what you're worth and then also being able to have these conversations and negotiate. And so you mentioned negotiation earlier. So, some people give all sorts of advice, but why is just don't accept low offers? Like just negotiate higher. Just, say, no, just don't take the low offers. Why is that tone deaf advice?
I think that's tone deaf advice, Whitney, because some people are in a position to say no. So I know I didn't really feel like I had the ability to say no for my first WIC job because I had moved from Ohio to DC. My older brother lived in DC. I was living on his living room floor on an air mattress, and I had student loan payments coming in. So I had just graduated. So I'm not sitting on a pile of cash as a student. I needed to work. So I needed to be able to have an income so I can get my own apartment, start paying off my student loans. And so on, those bills are very real and they were very much due. So I think sometimes people just say, well, if it's too low, don't take it. But there is privilege in being able to say no. So whether you can say, if you have a partner who's supporting you or parents who are supporting you, there's privilege in someone else being able to float you until you can find a better offer. And not everyone has that privilege. So I think it's more responsible to educate and inform and help people to learn to negotiate and to evaluate that offer and give people tools rather than shame people and saying, well, just don't take it. Because not everyone can just say no.
Right. That's not really a great solution. So that's a very helpful piece of advice. And to your point, people can, especially, for so many of us, I hear the horror stories of people applying to so many different jobs and only getting a few interviews. And then you get to the final interview and then you get the job offer, or us as business owners and we're busting our butts to get leads coming in and clients coming in. And then maybe that person is trying to negotiate or they want something else. And to just say, well, hold firm. Like, that's not super helpful because I'm not really, I worked really hard to get this offer.
Yeah.
So how do I make the most of it and still feel like I'm advocating for myself? And who knows, maybe you still accept the offer. I don't know, but similar to what you did on your first job, which is not what I did, at least starting to get comfortable saying, is that negotiable? And all these other skills that people can learn.
Yeah. And I think especially for any students who are listening, who are applying for and working on landing their first job, just the permission that you don't have to stay there forever. And any other job that you're applying for, you're not applying for as a new grad, which is kind of a boost of confidence. And don't feel like you have to stay there a long time. And even if you just stay there for a couple of months and are applying for other jobs, then you can explain, the salary was really low. Like you liked my boss, I like my work and so on, but it's not sustainable to work for that low of a salary. That's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, it's not you, it's me. It's like, I just can't, that's fine. That's the salary that you offered me. And, especially if you had asked, I think I would say too, like if you asked and kind of started raising a flag during the interview process, during the job acceptance process of being like, is this negotiable? And them saying no, or whatever the case may be, in a couple months when you end up leaving, it's not like it's a complete surprise. It's not like you took that salary and said, yes, this is the exact number I was looking for. They already get that sense. But anyway, well, it clearly there's so much to this. And money obviously is such a large topic. And also we're talking about whether you're an employee or whether you're running your business and making the money you want, saving the money you want, figuring out how to manage your money and all of that too. So who would benefit from attending this conference, the Dietitian Money Conference? It's happening soon. This episode is airing. It's happening in September in only a few weeks. So who would benefit from coming to the conference?
Yeah, so the Money Conference is going to be taking place September 24th through 27th. The links for everything will be in the show notes. Thanks for sharing with. But I don't want it to sound trite, but it's really for everybody because these are skills that we continue to hone. So even though, for example, we learned a lot of different things in school, maybe not negotiation and money stuff, but we learned a lot of nutrition content. And then you start your first job and you're learning a lot more things on the job by actually doing the work. So just because I'm much more comfortable talking about money now than I was 20 years ago, I'm still learning. So and the game keeps changing. So one of the topics is about using LinkedIn to leverage, to grow thoughtfully your network. So the topic is using social networking to grow your network. Maybe you're in a job that you love, but would like to have a side hustle. So there are different ways to get some extra income, such as doing cooking demonstrations, doing social media management for others. Maybe you're working on applying for your first job. There's a session all about having a really kick-ass resume, which these are really important skills. I read a statistic that the average hiring manager spends less than 10 seconds looking at your resume. So having a high impactful resume really matters. And so these are skills. So even though you're a good dietitian, you have to be able to quantify that in your LinkedIn profile. That's one of the sessions. On your resume, that's one of the sessions. And when you get the interview, you have to learn how to negotiate. And that's one of the sessions. So there's so much in here. And then to balance that, sometimes that makes us feel a little competitive, but really we're all in it together. So one of the sessions is about collaboration, not competition, because the more that we are transparent and advocating for a network that does benefit everybody, it's not like I take a piece of pie and there's less pie. It's by my average salary going up that does benefit other people too. It's a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And just by talking about things more openly, that helps to inspire people. You're like, you're charging how much per hour, or you're getting paid this much per hour? Like, holy cow. Don't be jealous. Say that's great, because that means that is breaking the glass ceiling and opening doors that other people can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm scrolling through the speaker page right now, which I love the website, and hint, hint, Holly has been a member of our website program in the past, and this is actually her second website with us, and you did such an amazing job. So the site itself looks amazing, but the speaker lineup, you did just now such a great overview of the variety of topics, but the breadth of topics here, I definitely agree with you. There's something for everyone. There's also someone talking about the advocacy, like you talked about. How can you be an advocate for the profession? So many different things about how to add new revenue streams to your business, whether you, like you said, side hustling or not. And the negotiation stuff is in here. There's also things about finding work that aligns with your values, because I think that's a critical thing too. I think we can think that when people want to talk about money, that it's starting to move into this greedy, kind of soulless area. And that's not what we're advocating for. We still want to find joy in our work and still feel like we are doing work that we love and that's making a difference. But we also, money equals freedom, and we need to earn money in order to sustain our lives, our families. And when we succeed, then we can have more energy and time and freedom to help our customers, our clients, and all of that. So yeah, I agree. I think there's just so many great sessions here. And so when people sign up, they get to watch all of them, right?
Yes. And so not only do you have access to all of the speakers, their presentations for a full year, almost all of the speakers have been able to be available for a live Q&A. So whether or not you are available and free at the time of their live Q&A, if you join the conference, you can submit your questions ahead of time and we'll get through as many questions. And this is what we did last year. This is the second year of hosting the Dietitian Money Conference, and people loved it. So like to really be able to pick the brains of the speakers and ask thoughtful questions and get those answered. And then those are recorded and you have access to everything for a year. So there's a ton that's released in the week of the conference, and we have a community group to network with all of the other attendees and the speakers, and that's awesome. And you have access to all of that. So you can watch each presentation and rewatch it again and again. So if you're applying for jobs, you can watch the resume session. You can watch the session about salary transparency with Stacy Dunn-Emke. And then when you land the job, then you can rewatch the session about negotiating to have that be fresh in your mind. So there's just so much. I'm really excited about the lineup and how much value it is. And I want people, especially students, please come. This is really important information as early in your career as possible.
Yeah, I will second that. And it goes with so many things, not just the salary, but also learning how to save money and the value of investing your money early on, and getting these things in order, the sooner the better, because compounding interest, I think it was like Warren Buffett that said it, like it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So the sooner that you can be making the money that you deserve and paying off student debt, or just being able to save a little bit more each month and investing it and growing your wealth, that means you're supporting your family more, you're being able to donate to causes you care about, have more time for doing the things that you love and light you up. So money is a good thing. Money is something that we all deserve. And you have created this conference that really allows people to connect with money in a way that's still very authentic to us as healers and caregivers. So
Thank you, Rim.
Thank you for doing that. So where do folks go to learn more? I think you're also doing a masterclass, and by the time this episode drops, I think the masterclass is tomorrow, but I hope some people will listen to this and hear it and be able to attend. So what's that class about?
Yeah, so the master class is kind of a state of the union with including some of the information we talked about earlier in terms of the history of our salary and how that has been impacted by policy, by advocacy, for better or worse, and just some of the more like trends in the industry, like internship placements and where people are applying for jobs, salary transparency. So all those goodies we'll be talking about in the masterclass. So the masterclass is taking place on September 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Yes, it will be recorded. Yes, there are bonuses for if you attend and want to register for the conference right away. And then on September 4th, the registration for the conference will open. There'll be an early bird price of $247 for 2 weeks. And then I also offer a student price of $97 that's just on the honor policy, because again, it's really important to me that this information be as accessible as possible. So if you're a student, I'm trying to make it as accessible as possible so that you can register and join.
Thank you for doing that. I think that's great. All right, wonderful. Well, we'll have the links to the masterclass. We have the links to the conference in the show notes. Is there anything else you would like to share with us, Holly, before we wrap up?
Gosh, let's talk about money. The conference is approved for CE, so if that's a priority for you, I did want to mention that. And then come and tell a friend.
Yeah, sounds great. The more, like you said, the more of us that are doing things to raise the value and salary of all of us, the better the profession will be. So thank you so much for the wonderful conversation, and again, for creating this platform for the profession. And I hope so many of you guys will join Holly in the class and sign up for the conference.
Thanks for having me, Whitney.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Holly as much as I enjoyed having it. This is such a big, broad topic, but as you heard, she has pulled together such a diverse lineup for her conference that I truly do believe that if you are just thinking about how you can be advocating for yourself better and making sure that you're getting the salary and compensation that you feel is right for you, then this is a conference that you should be attending. And if you're still a student, as Holly talked about, this is also definitely a conference for you so you can start off on the right foot. And, I started this podcast, The Growth Show, and purposefully called it The Growth Show to not go into a specific niche. I mean, we talk a lot about websites, a lot about marketing, but it's also really about growing in your own way in the many facets that it takes to really build a fulfilling life that is successful on your terms. And it's going to be different for everyone. But we do know that money is something that we need to have in order to continue pursuing our dreams and taking care of our families and just doing good in the world. And basically, if you're committed to making a change for yourself, making change for the profession as well as for your own personal earnings, then you should definitely consider joining Holly. You can come to her masterclass that we talked about. The link for that is in the show notes. And also making sure that you sign up and attend the Dietitian Money Conference. Like she mentioned, you get access for a full year as well. Enrollment for that, registration for that will be opening up on September 4th. So I hope you will take us up on the offer to really improve your own money skills in all the different ways that it takes shape for our professional lives. And until next time, hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening.